So you know the age-old problem. How do I get a job that requires experience when I can't get a job to give me the experience I need to get the job that requires the experience? I mean, it's a mess, right? Well, here's the thing. There is not a professional alive who has not had to tackle this challenge. So it can be done. But how? In this episode, we're going to talk about all the ways that you can get the experience you need to get that job that requires experience. And by the way, spoiler alert, you already have a lot of the experience.
Greetings, my friend. We are all interested in the future, for that is where you and I are going to spend the rest of our lives. And remember, my friend, future events such as these will affect you in the future.
Okay, so how are we going to do this? Well, the first thing we're going to do is sort of challenge the question itself. How do I get the experience I need to get the job? Well, the first thing is let's look at the word experience. Don't make the mistake of assuming this means paid experience. Now, sure, we'd all love to be hired on to a job with no experience and be trained on the job, if you will, but most of the time that's not going to happen. So this means, how do we get the experience we need, even if it means not getting paid for it? Now, before we start digging deep into this, I need to call out that it all depends on the industry that you're trying to break into. After all, some industries have some very specific career paths that we need to follow in order to start a career there. So we need to take this into account. Take an airline pilot, for example. To fly for a major airline, you need to have flown for like 1,500 hours. Many pilots get these hours through the military. Those who choose to go the civilian route need to be hired on with some small airline carrying freight in Alaska or something like that. We're talking real puddle jumpers here. It's long, it's hard, it's not glamorous, but 1,500 hours is 1,500 hours. So yes, the ways that we can gain experience will depend on the industry we're trying to break into. But with that aside, let's look at some general options available to us. The first that we can consider is volunteer work. After all, if the goal is to get experience, then experience is experience. And whether you're paid for it or not is irrelevant. I know, it's kind of a hard thing to wrap your mind around. Can I put a job on my resume that was not a paid gig, that was just volunteer? Absolutely. Now, we're going to talk resumes later on in this video series, but right now, I just want you to embrace the fact that the way you gain experience is irrelevant. Whether you're paid $50, $1,000, or $0, it's still experience. Another option is to look at temporary or contract work, especially if you look at small companies, mid-sized companies, and maybe even nonprofits. Now, the reason this works is these companies tend to be somewhat strapped for cash, and they have this short-term need, so they don't want to hire anybody for it. So they might be more willing to bring in untested talent in order to meet that need. A third option is to actually apply for entry-level jobs in your industry. Now, as we said before, this transition may require you to kind of take a step down in your career ladder, if you will, kind of move backwards in terms of income and scope and roles and responsibilities. But remember, we're not trying to build our current career, we're trying to build a new career. And so working your way up from the ground level can be a wonderful way to get the experience. Now, finally, a quick add-on. You might connect with your local university or community college and see what webinars, seminars, and programs they might offer free of charge. Now, granted, this isn't experience in the traditional sense. However, it is a way for you to add to your portfolio. Most of the time, depending on the industry, the employer is going to want to see what have you done in the past. After all, this is what experience is. Show me that you know how to solve these sort of problems. So a portfolio that you developed through a seminar or a workshop or something like that can help demonstrate this to an employer. Ultimately, getting these skills and this experience is absolutely paramount. After all, they're not going to just hire you on passion alone. You need to show these employers that you know how to solve the problems that they need solving. All of this said, and I kind of alluded to this at the beginning of the video, you actually have a lot more experience than you may be aware of. And in our next video, we're going to explore that in detail. And so until then, have a fantastic day. Okay, so I'm a college professor right now, but where did I start gaining my experience? As a volunteer Sunday school teacher. So yeah, you can start pretty low and work your way up.